The bass thundered through Valentino's, making the champagne glasses on every table shiver with each beat. Colored lights swept across the crowd, illuminating beautiful people in expensive clothes who danced, laughed, and pretended they owned the world. Maya Chin stood at the edge of the VIP section, clutching her small purse like a lifeline, wondering what had possessed her to come here tonight. Her friend Jessica had insisted. "You need to get out," she'd said. "You need to remember what it feels like to be alive again." Jessica was somewhere on the dance floor now, lost in the music and the attention of at least 3 different men. Maya had told her she was in the bathroom, but really, she just needed air, space, a moment where she didn't have to smile and pretend everything was fine. The VIP section was quieter, separated from the main floor by velvet ropes and the kind of subtle intimidation that made most people stay away. Maya had slipped past a distracted bouncer, thinking she could find a quiet corner to collect herself. The leather booths here were deep and dark, occupied by people who looked like they could buy and sell the entire club without blinking. She was about to turn back when she saw him. Marcus, her ex-boyfriend, stood near the bar, his eyes scanning the crowd with that familiar intensity that used to make her feel special, but now only made her stomach clench with dread. He wore a fitted black shirt that showed off the gym muscles he was so proud of, and even from this distance, she could see the set of his jaw, the way his hands curled into fists at his sides when he was looking for something, looking for someone, looking for her. Maya's breath caught in her throat. She turned quickly, trying to blend into shadows, but it was too late. Their eyes met across the dim space, and she saw the exact moment recognition flashed across his face. His expression shifted from hunting to having found, and he started moving toward her with purpose. "Maya," his voice cut through the music, sharp enough to make several people turn and look. "Maya, wait!" She backed up instinctively, her shoulders hitting the wall behind her. There was nowhere to go. The VIP section was a dead end, unless you wanted to make a scene, try and get past him. And making a scene with Marcus never ended well. Her phone was in her purse, but who would she call? Jessica couldn't hear her over the music. The bouncer was nowhere to be seen. The restraining order she'd filed was just paperwork, and Marcus had always been good at making paperwork disappear. "There you are." Marcus reached her in a few long strides, and suddenly he was too close, invading her space the way he always did, as if her body and her boundaries were things he had rights to. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I've been looking everywhere for you. We need to talk." "No, we don't." Maya tried to keep her voice steady, tried to channel all the strength she'd built up over the 3 months since she'd left him. "I have nothing to say to you, Marcus. Please leave me alone." "Baby, don't be like that." He reached for her arm, and she jerked away. His smile tightened. "I just want to talk. 5 minutes. You owe me that much after the way you ran out. I don't owe you anything." "Really?" His voice dropped lower, taking on that edge she knew too well. "After everything I did for you? After I paid for your apartment when you couldn't make rent? After I introduced you to everyone who matters in the city?" He leaned in closer, and she could smell his cologne, that expensive scent she used to love and now associated with fear. "You think you can just walk away from me? From us? There is no us. It's been 3 months, Marcus. Move on. 3 months where you've been hiding from me. 3 months where you've been ignoring my calls, my messages. Do you know how that makes me look?" His hand shot out and grabbed her wrist before she could move, his fingers tight enough to hurt. "Do you know how embarrassing it is when people ask me about my girlfriend, and I have to tell them you left without even a real explanation?" Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. This was how it always started. The reasonable tone that slowly shifted into accusations, the grip that tightened, the way he backed her into corners both literal and metaphorical until she felt like she couldn't breathe. She'd been so careful. She'd moved apartments, changed her number, blocked him on everything. How had he found her? "Let go of me." She tried to pull away, but his grip only tightened. "We're going to talk, Maya. You're going to tell me what this is really about, and then we're going to fix it." He was using what she privately called his boardroom voice. Calm, controlled, brooking no argument. The voice that made junior associates scramble and waiters apologize for things that weren't their fault. "You're being irrational, baby. You know we're good together. You know you need me. I said let go. Her voice was louder now, desperate, but the music swallowed it up. No one was looking their way. In a club this dark, this crowded, they were just another couple having a discussion. Or what? You'll scream? Make a scene? Marcus laughed, low and mean, about how sometimes the best love story started with the words, "Sorry I'm late, baby," and a stranger brave enough to play along. We both know you won't do that. You hate making scenes, Maya. You're too polite for that. Too nice. That's what I've always loved about you. You're sweet. Manageable. The word manageable hit her like a slap. Was that what she'd been? Was that what she'd let herself become? The thought made something crack open inside her chest, something that felt like panic and fury in equal measure. She yanked her arm back hard, stumbling slightly in her heels. Marcus's eyes flashed with anger, and he stepped forward, backing her further into the corner. She could see in his face. He was done being reasonable, done playing nice. This was the moment when the mask would slip completely, when his hand would move from her wrist to her throat, when a booth to her right, just a few feet away, was one of the large corner booths, the kind reserved for people important enough to command the best seats in the house. A man sat there alone, half hidden in shadow, a tumbler of amber liquid on the table in front of him. She couldn't see his face clearly in the dim light, but she could see he was big, broad shoulders, powerful build, the kind of presence that took up space even sitting still. It was a terrible idea. It was possibly the worst idea she'd ever had. But terrible was better than the alternative currently trapping her against the wall. Maya didn't let herself think. She just moved. She ducked around Marcus, ignoring his surprise curse, and slid into the booth next to the stranger before her ex could grab her again. The leather was cool against her legs, and she was suddenly acutely aware of invading someone's space, someone who probably didn't appreciate unexpected company. But she was committed now. "Sorry I'm late, baby." She said it loudly, projecting her voice over the music, pitching it with false brightness. She slid across the booth until she was pressed against the stranger's side, and then, because in for a penny, in for a pound, she put her hand on his chest and looked up at him with what she hoped was a convincing smile. "I got caught up with my friend on the dance floor. You know how Jessica is." Up close, the stranger was more intimidating than she'd realized. He had dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from granite, all sharp angles and strong lines, with jaw that looked like it could take a punch and give one back twice as hard. His eyes, when they turned to her, were so dark they were almost black, and they held an intelligence that made her suddenly certain she'd made a catastrophic mistake. This was not a man who appreciated being used as a prop in someone else's drama. This was not a man who tolerated being touched without permission. This was a man who looked like he could make people disappear without getting his expensive suit dirty. For a heartbeat, he just stared at her. She could feel the coiled tension in his body, the way every muscle had gone still like a predator deciding whether to strike. His chest was solid under her palm, his heartbeat steady and slow in a way that suggested nothing surprised him, nothing frightened him. Then his gaze slid past her to Marcus, who had stopped short at the edge of the booth, his face flushed with anger. Something shifted in the stranger's expression, something cold and assessing that sent a chill down Maya's spine, even though it wasn't directed at her. When he moved, it was with casual possession that seemed entirely natural. His arm came around her shoulders, pulling her close against his side, and his hand settled on her upper arm with a grip that was firm but not painful, a complete contrast to Marcus's bruising hold moments before. "It's fine, sweetheart." His voice was deep, with a slight rasp that suggested expensive whiskey and late nights. He didn't look at her when he spoke, his attention fixed entirely on Marcus. "I'm just glad you found me." Then he looked at her ex, and Maya felt the temperature in the booth drop by several degrees. "You're bothering my girl." The stranger's voice was quiet, conversational even, but there was something underneath it that made the word sound less like a statement and more like a death sentence. "That's a problem." Marcus's bravado faltered. Maya could see in the way he straightened up, try and make himself bigger, more imposing. But compared to the man currently holding her, Marcus suddenly looked like exactly what he was, a corporate lawyer who worked out but had never been in a real fight in his life. Facing someone who looked like violence was a second language. "This doesn't concern you," Marcus said, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. "Maya and I are having a private conversation." "Private?" The stranger's eyebrow lifted slightly. "In the middle of my club? With my girlfriend?" He shifted, and the movement was subtle but somehow suggested a world of potential violence held in check. "I don't think so." "Your club?" Marcus laughed, but it sounded forced. "Look, man, I don't know what she told you, but Maya and I are done talking." The stranger's interruption was final. "In fact, you're done being here. Tony." A large man appeared from nowhere, materialized out of the shadows like he'd been waiting for a signal Maya hadn't seen. He wore a dark suit that didn't quite hide the bulk of his shoulders or the slight bulge under his left arm that suggested a shoulder holster. His face was impassive, professional, the face of someone who'd seen everything and been impressed by nothing. "Mr. Salvatore?" Tony's voice was respectful, deferential even. Salvatore. The name landed in Maya's stomach like a stone. She'd heard that name before, whispered in the same tones people used to discuss natural disasters or stock market crashes. Salvatore, as in the Salvatore family, as in the organized crime syndicate that supposedly ran half the city's underground economy, as in she just pretended to be dating one of the most dangerous men in the state. "Escort this gentleman out," Salvatore said, his tone suggesting gentleman was a courtesy he didn't actually mean, "and make sure he understands that he's not welcome back. Not here, not at any of our establishments." "Now, wait a minute," Marcus started, his face flushing darker with anger or fear or both. "You put your hands on her." Salvatore's voice remained quiet, almost gentle, which somehow made it more terrifying. "I saw you. Everyone here saw you. So now you have two choices. You can leave on your own feet, or Tony and his friends can help you leave. But either way, you're leaving and you're not coming back." For a moment, Maya thought Marcus might actually be stupid enough to push it. She could see him calculating, weighing his pride against his survival instinct. But whatever he saw in Salvatore's face, and in Tony's impassive stance, made a decision for him. "This isn't over," Marcus said, but he was already backing up, trying to save face. "You'll regret this, Maya. Both of you." "That sounds like a threat." Salvatore's fingers tightened slightly on Maya's arm, not hurting, just anchoring. "Tony, make sure, Mr. What's your name?" "Marcus Reed." The name came out automatically, and Maya saw Marcus realize his mistake a second too late. "Make sure Mr. Reed understands that threats against my girlfriend are threats against me, and explain what happens to people who threaten me." Salvatore smiled, and it was the coldest expression Maya had ever seen. In detail. Tony moved forward, and suddenly two more large men appeared, flanking Marcus on either side. They didn't touch him, didn't have to. Their presence alone was enough to make him stumble backward, his carefully cultivated confidence crumbling. I'm going." Marcus held up his hands, and Maya felt a savage satisfaction at the fear in his voice. "Jesus, I'm gone." They watched as Tony and his associates escorted Marcus through the VIP section, past the velvet ropes, and down toward the main entrance. Other patrons moved out of the way instinctively, sensing trouble even if they couldn't hear the conversation. In the space of 30 seconds, Marcus went from threatening presence to remove problem, and Maya felt something loosen in her chest. Then Salvatore's arm dropped from her shoulders, and she remembered where she was, who she was sitting next to, what she'd just done. "Thank you." Her voice came out smaller than she intended. She started to slide away, putting distance between them. Suddenly hyper-aware of the intimacy of the booth, the way the shadows made them feel isolated from the rest of the club. "I'm sorry for dragging you into that. I'll just sit." It wasn't loud, wasn't harsh, but there was an authority in the single word that made her freeze. "We need to talk." Maya's mouth went dry. Of course they needed to talk. She'd just used a mafia boss as an unwitting accomplice in her personal drama. She claimed to be his girlfriend in front of witnesses. She'd made him part of her problems, and men like Salvatore didn't appreciate having problems they hadn't asked for. She sat, up close, with his attention fully focused on her. Salvatore was even more intimidating. His suit was clearly bespoke, cut to emphasize the breadth of his shoulders and the narrow line of his waist. His watch was the kind that cost more than her car. Everything about him screamed money and power and danger, and Maya realized she was shaking slightly, the adrenaline from the confrontation with Marcus crashing into fear of what might come next. "What's your name?" He asked it like he was asking what time it was, casual and direct. "Maya. Maya Chun. And Marcus Reed. He's your ex." She nodded, not trusting her voice. "How long have you been broken up?" 3 months. The words came out whispered. "I left him 3 months ago. Got a restraining order. Changed my number. I thought he'd finally given up." Salvatore reached for his drink, took a slow sip, considering. "He put his hands on you before. That wasn't the first time." It wasn't a question, but Maya answered anyway. "Yes." "How often? Does it matter?" The question came out more bitter than she'd intended. It was enough. More than enough. "It matters." His dark eyes held hers, and there was something in them that looked almost like understanding. Because men like that, they don't just grab once. They escalate. And I need to know if he's going to escalate further. If having you as my girlfriend is going to put you in more danger or less. The thoughtfulness of the question surprised her. She'd expected anger at being used, maybe threats, possibly a demand for payment for his intervention. She hadn't expected him to care about her safety. "I don't know," she admitted. "He's never been physically violent beyond grabbing, pushing, backing me into corners. But there were always threats. Implications. He made me feel like if I ever really left, if I ever really said no." She stopped, swallowing hard. "I don't know what he'd do." Salvatore nodded slowly, as if she confirmed something he'd already suspected. "You did the right thing." "What?" "Coming over here. Using me." He set his drink down with a soft click against the marble table. "You were smart. Men like Marcus Reed, they're bullies. They push until someone pushes back harder. You couldn't push back hard enough on your own, so you found someone who could." "I didn't know who you were," Maya confessed. "I mean, I know now. I heard Tony call you Mr. Salvatore. But when I sat down, I just saw someone who looked." She gestured vaguely at him, trying to find words. "Dangerous," he supplied, amusement flickering across his face. "Capable," Maya corrected. "I saw someone who looked capable of handling men like Marcus. Diplomatic. I like that." Salvatore leaned back, studying her with an intensity that made her want to squirm. "Here's the problem, Maya Chun. You just told everyone in the VIP section, including some people who make their business, knowing everyone's business, that you're my girlfriend. That news is going to spread. By tomorrow morning, half the city is going to think I'm dating you." Maya's heart sank. "I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking. I was just desperate and—" He held up a hand, stopping her apology. "I'm not finished. Now, we have 2 options. Option 1. I put out the word that you're nobody, that it was a misunderstanding, that you're not actually connected to me, which means Marcus Reed will know he can come after you again, harder this time, because I won't be there to stop him." The thought made her stomach turn. Marcus angry was bad enough. Marcus humiliated and angry would be worse. Option 2, Salvatore continued, his tone unchanged. "You actually become my girlfriend." Maya blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "Not really," he clarified, and she didn't know if she was relieved or disappointed. "Publicly. For appearances. You play the role of my girlfriend, and in exchange, I make sure Marcus Reed, and anyone else, knows that you're under my protection. No one touches you. No one threatens you. You're safe." It was insane. It was the kind of thing that happened in movies, not in real life. Maya opened her mouth to say no, to tell him she couldn't possibly, that it was too much, too dangerous, too... But then she thought about Marcus's hand on her wrist, the fear in his eyes when faced with real power, the way Tony had made him leave without even having to touch him. She thought about 3 months of looking over her shoulder, of changing her routine, of being afraid every time she heard footsteps behind her on the street. And she thought about what it might feel like to not be afraid anymore. What would that entail exactly? She asked carefully. "Being your pretend girlfriend?" public appearances. You'd come to events with me, be seen at my clubs, restaurants. Social media presence, nothing too intimate, just enough to make it believable. And you'd need to move. Move. Your current apartment isn't secure enough. I'd set you up somewhere safer, somewhere I can guarantee your protection. He said it matter-of-factly, like he was discussing a business arrangement, which, Maya supposed he was, you have security detail. Limited at first. We don't want to be too obvious, but enough to make sure you're not alone if Reed or anyone else comes calling. This is crazy, Maya said, but she didn't say no. Probably, Salvatore agreed, but it's also practical. I've been getting pressure from my mother to settle down, to find a nice girl and stop playing the field. Having a girlfriend would get her off my back. And you need protection that the law can't give you. We help each other. Maya's mind raced, trying to find a catch, the hidden danger in his offer. What do you get out of this? Really? Because making your mother happy can't be the whole story. Something that might have been respect flickered in his eyes. Smart question. Honestly, it's good for business. Half my enemies think I'm too reckless, too impulsive. Having a girlfriend, looking settled, it makes me seem more stable, more reasonable. People let their guard down around reasonable men. So I'd be part of your cover. You'd be part of my life, he corrected. Or at least you'd appear to be. I won't lie to you, Maya. This won't be simple. Some people might come after you to get to me. Others might not believe it's real and try to test it. It'll be complicated and possibly dangerous. As opposed to my current situation, which is so safe and simple. He smiled at that, a real smile that transformed his face from intimidating to something else entirely. Fair point. So, what do you say? Want to be a mob boss's girlfriend? Maya knew she should think about it, should sleep on it, consult someone, do literally anything other than agree to a criminal's protection scheme based on a fake relationship. But she also knew that Marcus was out there somewhere, furious and humiliated, and that a restraining order was just paper. Paper couldn't stop him from showing up at her work, her apartment, from making her life a nightmare of anxiety and fear. But Dominic Salvatore could. Okay, she heard herself say. Okay, yes, I'll do it. Good. Salvatore signaled to someone she couldn't see, and moments later, a woman appeared, elegant, professional, with sharp eyes that assessed Maya in a single glance. This is Sophia. She's going to take you to get your things from your friend, and then help you get settled. We'll go over details tomorrow, once you've had a chance to rest and think clearly. Wait, tonight? I'm moving tonight. Reed knows where you live, correct? When she nodded, Salvatore's expression hardened. Then, tonight, he's angry and embarrassed. Men like that do stupid things when they're angry. Better to not give him the opportunity. It was happening too fast. Everything was happening too fast. But Maya found herself nodding, letting Sophia help her out of the booth, feeling the weight of Salvatore's eyes on her back as she walked away. Maya. His voice stopped her at the edge of the VIP section. She turned back to see him standing now, tall and imposing even across the distance. You're under my protection now. That means something. No one hurts you. Not Reed. Not anyone. Understand? The intensity in his voice, the promise underneath it, made something tight in her chest loosen just slightly. I understand. Good. I'll see you tomorrow. She left with Sophia, found Jessica on the dance floor, made excuses about a family emergency that her friend was too drunk to question, in the cab to her apartment. With Sophia sitting calm and alert beside her, Maya kept thinking about Marcus's face when confronted with real power, about the casual authority in Salvatore's voice when he claimed her as his, about the fact that she just agreed to pretend to date a mafia boss, and that somehow, impossibly, she felt safer than she had in months. Her apartment felt strange when they arrived, like a place she'd already left behind. Sophia was efficient, directing two men who appeared from nowhere to pack Maya's belongings while she gathered essentials, documents, photos, the few pieces of jewelry that mattered. It took less than an hour to pack up her life, which was depressing when she thought about it. Where am I going? Maya asked as they loaded boxes into a sleek black SUV. Mr. Salvatore owns several properties. You'll be in one of the downtown penthouses. Good security, doorman, cameras. Sophia's tone was businesslike, but not unkind. It's furnished, but if you want to change anything, just let me know. Mr. Salvatore wants you comfortable. The penthouse, when they arrived, was beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, lights sparkling like scattered diamonds. The furniture was modern and expensive, all clean lines and quality materials. It was easily 3 times the size of her old apartment and probably cost 10 times as much. There's a guest room where your security will stay overnight, Sophia explained, showing her around. Frank will be your primary detail. He's good. Worked with Mr. Salvatore for years. You'll barely notice he's there. Frank turned out to be a quiet man in his 40s with kind eyes and the build of someone who could break a person in half without much effort. He nodded at Maya politely, told her call him if she needed anything, and disappeared into the guest room. When Sophia finally left, Maya found herself alone in her new apartment, surrounded by boxes, trying to process everything that had happened in the space of a few hours. She should be terrified, should be second-guessing every choice. But instead, she felt a strange sense of calm. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Sleep well. We'll talk tomorrow. DS. Maya saved the number, turned off her phone, and went to stand by the windows. The city stretched out below her, millions of people living their lives, completely unaware that hers had just changed completely. She thought about Marcus, about the restraining order that hadn't stopped him, about the legal system that had smiled and nodded, and done nothing to actually keep her safe, about the fact that it had taken a criminal's intervention to finally give her protection the law couldn't. Tomorrow, she'd probably panic. Tomorrow, she'd probably realize what mistake she'd made. But tonight, for the first time in months, she was going to sleep without being afraid. Dominic Salvatore sat in his office long after the club had closed, nursing a glass of whiskey and thinking about brown eyes that had held both fear and defiance in equal measure. He shouldn't have agreed to Maya's plan. Shouldn't have played along. Shouldn't have offered protection. Shouldn't have complicated his life with a woman he didn't know. But he'd seen the bruises fading on her wrist, had seen the way she'd flinched when Reed grabbed her, had recognized the look in her eyes as the one his sister had worn years ago, before she'd finally left the man who'd put that look there. And besides, there was something about Mayachin that intrigued him, the way she'd been smart enough to use him as a shield, brave enough to follow through, and honest enough to admit she didn't know what she was doing. In his world, most people were liars, schemers, or cowards. She'd been desperate but not dishonest, frightened but not frozen. His phone rang. Carlo, his second-in-command, calling with the information he'd requested. Marcus Reed. Carlo's voice was efficient. Corporate lawyer. Works for Henderson and Associates. Makes good money. Has the right connections. No criminal record. But I asked around. He's got a reputation. 3 ex-girlfriends, all with similar stories. Controlling, possessive, escalating behavior. One filed a police report that disappeared. Another left the state. And the current girlfriend? Gone too. Mayachin is his 3rd ghost in 2 years. Dominic's jaw tightened. Men like Reed made him sick. Men who used their power and position to terrorize women who were behind their respectable facades while destroying lives. At least Dominic was honest about what he was. At least the people he hurt knew exactly what they were dealing with. I want him watched, Dominic said. 24/7. He makes a move toward Maya. I want to know immediately. You sure about this, boss? Getting involved with civilian, especially over something personal. It's not your style. No, it wasn't. Dominic usually kept his business and personal life carefully separated. But then, he'd never had a woman slide into his booth and call him baby with such convincing desperation in her eyes. I'm sure. Set it up. He hung up and returned his attention to the file his people had already compiled on Mayachin. 28 years old, graphic designer, no criminal record, paid her taxes on time. She'd been dating Marcus Reed for 10 months before leaving him 3 months ago. There was a copy of her restraining order application, detailed and damning. Subject, displays pattern of controlling behavior. Monitors my phone. Won't allow me to see friends alone. Becomes angry when I don't respond immediately to messages. has grabbed me hard enough to leave bruises. I am afraid of what will happen if I don't leave now. The restraining order had been granted. Reed had been ordered to stay 500 feet away. And tonight, he cornered her in a club, put his hands on her, threatened her. Dominic knew how this story usually ended. The woman got hurt or killed, and everyone said they'd seen the signs but hadn't known what to do. The law failed, society failed, and another woman died because she dared to say no to a man who thought he owned her. Not this time. His phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. She settled, scared but holding it together. Frank says she hasn't stopped moving since we got here. Unpacking, organizing. Thinks she's too wired to sleep. Dominic found himself typing a response. Tell Frank to make sure she eats something, and give her the number for Dr. Martinez. She might need to talk to someone. Dr. Martinez was a therapist Dominic kept on retainer for his employees. The ones who saw too much, did too much, needed someone to talk to who understood the life. She was good at her job and discreet. Two qualities Dominic valued above almost everything else. He sent Maya the text, then leaned back in his chair, considering the web he'd just tangled himself in. A fake girlfriend who was really a desperate woman looking for protection. A protection scheme that was really a business arrangement. An arrangement that would require them to spend time together, to make it convincing, to blur the lines between what was real and what was for show. It should have felt like a complication he didn't need. Instead, it felt like something he'd been waiting for, without knowing it. The next morning, Maya woke to sun streaming through unfamiliar windows, and a moment of complete disorientation. Then memory crashed back. The club, Marcus, Salvatore, the agreement that seemed both like a dream and a nightmare. She checked her phone to find several messages. Jessica, wondering where she'd gone and if everything was okay with her family. Her mother, nothing urgent. And Dominic Salvatore with a simple message, brunch at 11. Sophia will pick you up. It was 9:30. Maya showered in the enormous marble bathroom, tried on 3 different outfits before settling on jeans and a silk blouse that made her look more confident than she felt, and was ready when Sophia arrived at 10:45. The restaurant was the kind of place Maya had only seen in magazines, expensive and exclusive, where every table had a view and every dish cost more than she used to spend on groceries in a week. Salvatore was already there, sitting at a corner booth that gave him a view of both the entrance and the rest of the dining room. He stood when she approached, which surprised her. "You look rested," he said, which was a lie. She'd tossed and turned half the night, but she appreciated anyway. "You look like you haven't slept at all," she countered, noticing the shadows under his eyes. He smiled slightly. Perceptive. "I had things to take care of. Sit, please." They ordered. Or rather, Salvatore ordered for both of them, rattling off dishes in Italian that made the waiter's face light up with approval. Maya would normally have been annoyed at the presumption, but she was too nervous to care what she ate. "So," she said once they were alone again, "how does this work?" "Directly. I like that." Salvatore pulled out his phone, showed her a contract. "This is an agreement outlining the terms of our arrangement. You'll live in the penthouse rent-free, with a security detail. You'll attend events with me as needed, probably 2 or 3 times a week. You'll have an allowance for clothes, appearance, anything you need to look the part. In exchange, you maintain the fiction that we're together. No dating other people publicly. No discussing the arrangement with anyone outside a very select group. It's set for 6 months initially, renewable if needed. 6 months. It felt like forever and no time at all. What about my job? You can keep it if you want, or I can find you design work through my businesses. Your choice. But you'll need to be flexible with your schedule for appearances." Maya skimmed the contract. It was surprisingly fair, almost generous. "This seems like a lot to give up for making your mother happy. I told you it's also good for business. And," he paused, considering his words, "I don't like men who hurt women. Reed is the kind of man who makes the world worse just by being in it. Helping you hurts him. That's worth something to me." The honesty was surprising. "Have you done this before? The fake girlfriend thing?" "No. I've had real relationships, though most didn't last long. My work isn't conducive to normalcy." He met her eyes. I need you to understand something, Maya. This arrangement, it's going to look real. It's going to have to feel real to everyone watching. That means I'm going to touch you in public. Nothing inappropriate, but hand-holding, arms around waist, that sort of thing. We'll need to seem comfortable with each other. If that's going to be a problem, it won't be. Maya surprised herself with how quickly she answered. I mean, you're not Marcus. You're not going to hurt me. No, Salvatore agreed quietly. I'm not, but I need you to tell me if something bothers you, if I do something that makes you uncomfortable. Communication is the only way this works. Their food arrived, eggs Benedict for her, something complicated with prosciutto for him. They ate in silence for a few moments. The strange intimacy of sharing a meal with someone who was both a stranger and now inextricably linked to her life. Your mother, Maya said eventually. Tell me about her. If I'm supposed to be your girlfriend, I should know. And so he talked about Maria Salvatore, who had raised 3 children mostly alone while her husband built an empire, about how she'd insisted all her children get college educations, learn languages, understand that power without intelligence was just brutality, about how she called him every Sunday and asked when he was going to give her grandchildren, completely ignoring the fact that his younger sister had already provided 2. She sounds formidable, Maya said. She is. You'll meet her soon, probably this week. She'll want to inspect you, make sure you're good enough for her precious son. He said it with affection and exasperation in equal measure. What if she doesn't approve? She will. You're educated, polite, not involved in the business. That's all she's ever wanted from me. Someone normal. The word normal carried weight, like it was something precious and unattainable. They talked for 2 hours, about families and childhoods, about college and careers, about all the surface things people shared when they were getting to know each other. Maya learned that Dominic had studied business at Columbia, spoke 4 languages, and had a surprising passion for classical music. He learned that she'd grown up in Seattle, had a younger brother in medical school, and could sketch anyone's portrait after meeting them once. Show me, he said, sliding a napkin and pen across the table. Maya hesitated, then picked up the pen. Her hand moved quickly, surely, capturing the strong line of his jaw, the intensity of his eyes, the slight curl at the corner of his mouth that suggested humor he rarely showed. When she was done, she slid it back. Dominic studied it for a long moment. You made me look less dangerous. Did I? Or did I just draw what I see? His eyes met hers, and something passed between them, an understanding maybe or a question neither was ready to ask. The moment stretched, filled with possibility and danger in equal measure. Sophia appeared at the table, discreet but insistent. Mr. Salvatore, you have the meeting in 20 minutes. The spell broke. Dominic nodded, pulled out his wallet, platinum card, of course, and stood. I'll have someone bring by clothes for the events this week. First one is tomorrow night, a charity gala. Black tie. Tomorrow? Maya's voice squeaked slightly. No time like the present. Besides, the sooner people see us together, the sooner Reed gets the message. He held out his hand to help her up, and she took it without thinking. His palm was warm, his grip firm but gentle. You'll be fine. Better than fine. You're smart enough to handle a room full of socialites and criminals. Those are different groups. He laughed, a real laugh that made his whole face change. Not usually, no. Outside the restaurant, a car was waiting, the same SUV from last night, with Frank at the wheel. Dominic walked her to it, his hand at the small of her back, and she was acutely aware of the casual intimacy of the gesture, the way it must look to anyone watching. Tomorrow at 7, he said, we'll pick you up. We're something that makes you feel powerful. What if nothing makes me feel powerful? Then fake it. His smile was slight, but genuine. You're good at that. You convinced an entire VIP section that you were mine with one sentence. The word mine shouldn't have sent a shiver down her spine, but it did. Maya spent the rest of the day trying to work. She had deadlines, projects that wouldn't care about her new arrangement. But her mind kept wandering, kept coming back to dark eyes and the promised protection, to the weight of the decision she'd made. Around 3, the doorbell rang. Frank checked the camera, then let in 2 women carrying what looked like an entire boutique's worth of garment bags. They were from Sophia. The note said, with options for tomorrow and the week ahead. Maya tried on dress after dress, each more beautiful than the last. Designer labels she recognized from magazines, fabrics that felt like water against her skin, cuts that made her look like someone important. She settled on a deep emerald gown with a subtle slit up one side, elegant but not trying too hard, the kind of dress that said she belonged at a gala, without screaming for attention. Her phone rang, unknown number, but she'd learned to answer everything now. Maya-chun, a woman's voice, professional but warm. Yes. This is Dr. Elena Martinez. Dominic asked me to reach out, said you might benefit from someone to talk to. I specialize in trauma recovery, particularly for people leaving abusive relationships. Maya sank onto the couch, clutching the phone. He told you about Marcus? Only the basics, that your ex was abusive, that you recently left. Everything else is confidential. You don't have to see me if you don't want to. But if you do, I have availability tomorrow afternoon, before your event. Part of Maya wanted to say no, that she was fine, that she'd handled it. But the larger part, the part that still woke up sometimes in a panic thinking Marcus was at her door, knew better. Tomorrow at 2? Maya heard herself say, "Perfect. I'll text you the address." And Maya, what you did, leaving him, accepting help, that took courage. Don't forget that. The call ended, leaving Maya staring at her phone and wondering how Dominic had known she needed this, how he'd thought of it when she hadn't even thought of it herself. That night, Maya dreamed of the club, but in the dream, when she slid into the booth, Dominic smiled at her like he knew her, like she actually was his. And when his arm came around her shoulders, it felt less like protection and more like coming home. She woke up confused and unsettled, not sure which scared her more, the memory of Marcus's grip or the dream of Dominic's embrace. The charity gala was held at the Museum of Natural History, the kind of event where tickets cost $5,000, and everyone pretended the money was really about helping children and not about seeing and being seen. Maya stood in front of her mirror, the emerald dress fitting perfectly, her hair styled in soft waves, makeup subtle but polished. She looked like someone who belonged at this kind of event. She felt like an imposter. The doorbell rang at exactly 7. Maya grabbed her clutch, also courtesy of Sophia's shopping expedition, and opened the door to find Dominic in a tuxedo that must have been custom-made. He looked devastating, dangerous and elegant in equal measure, and for a moment Maya forgot how to breathe. "Beautiful," he said simply, his eyes traveling over her in a way that felt appreciative without being invasive. "Ready?" "No, but I'm here anyway." He offered his arm, a gesture that seemed old-fashioned until she took it and felt how it steadied her. They rode down in the elevator in silence, walked through the lobby under the knowing eyes of the doorman, stepped into the waiting car where Frank sat behind the wheel. First rule, Dominic said once they were moving, "You don't leave my side. These events, people are going to try to separate us, pull you aside, ask questions. Don't let them." "What kind of questions?" "How we met, how long we've been together, what you do." The answers are, "Through mutual friends 3 months ago, exclusive for the last month, you're a graphic designer." Keep it vague but consistent. Why 3 months? Why not say we just started dating? Because 3 months explains why no one's seen you before, but establishes that it's serious. Too new and people think it's a fling. Too long, and they wonder where you've been hiding. Maya absorbed this, realizing how much thought had gone into their cover story. What else do I need to know? My mother will be there. She's going to love you, but she'll also test you. Ask questions, try to catch inconsistencies. Just be yourself. Mostly, she values honesty. The irony of valuing honesty while we're lying to everyone. We're not lying to everyone, Dominic corrected. We're maintaining a mutually beneficial arrangement. There's a difference. The museum was lit up like a jewel box. Photographers crowding the entrance, flashbulbs popping as couples emerged from their cars. Maya felt her stomach clench as their car pulled up to the red carpet. Yes, there was an actual red carpet. Smile. Dominic murmured as the door opened. "And remember, you're with me. No one here can touch you." He got out first, then turned to offer his hand. Maya took it, let him help her out of the car, and suddenly they were in the spotlight. Cameras flashed, people called out questions, and Dominic's hand found the small of her back, guiding her forward with calm assurance. "Mr. Salvatore, who's your date?" "Dominic, over here. Is this your girlfriend?" He ignored them all, just kept walking, but Maya felt his fingers press slightly against her back, a reminder, an anchor. They made it through the gauntlet and into the museum, where the real party waited. The main hall had been transformed into something out of a fairy tale. White lights twinkled overhead, making the dinosaur skeletons look like they were floating. Tables draped in silver cloth held champagne flutes and canapes. Women in designer gowns and men in expensive tuxedos mingled, their conversations a low hum of money and power. "Breathe," Dominic said quietly. "You look perfect, like you own the room." "I feel like everyone's staring." "They are. You're beautiful and you're with me. Of course they're staring." He said it matter-of-factly, like it was obvious. "Come on, let's get you a drink." He led her through the crowd, his hand never leaving her back, nodding at people as they passed. Maya saw the looks, curious, assessing, jealous. Women who'd probably hoped to catch Dominic's attention. Men who were categorizing her, trying to figure out who she was and whether she mattered. A server appeared with champagne. Dominic took 2 glasses, handed her one, and raised as in a subtle toast. To new arrangements. Maya clinked her glass against his. To protection. And to surprising each other, he added, something in his eyes that made her wonder what he meant. They hadn't made it 3 steps before a woman descended on them, tall, blonde, wearing a red dress that probably cost more than Maya's car. "Dominic, darling, I haven't seen you in ages. Where have you been hiding?" "Vanessa." Dominic's tone was polite, but cool. "I've been busy. This is Maya-chan. Maya, Vanessa Crawford." Vanessa's eyes swept over Maya, assessing and dismissing in one practiced look. "How lovely. Where did you 2 meet?" "Through friends," Maya said, remembering the script. "About 3 months ago." 3 months. Vanessa's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose. "And I'm only hearing about her now? Dominic, you're usually more social than that." "Maybe I'm becoming more private in my old age," Dominic said dryly. They escaped Vanessa after another minute of small talk, but she was only the first. Over the next hour, Maya was introduced to dozens of people, business associates, socialites, politicians who definitely shouldn't have been mingling with organized crime, but clearly were. Each time, Dominic introduced her the same way. "This is Maya, my girlfriend." Each time, his hand stayed at her back or held hers, a constant reminder that she wasn't alone. And strangely, it got easier. Maya found herself falling into the role, smiling and making small talk, letting Dominic guide her through the minefield of social politics. She even started to enjoy it. The way people who'd been dismissive became more attentive when they realized Dominic was serious about her. The way his presence gave her a kind of borrowed power. Then Maya saw her across the room. Maria Salvatore was small but commanding, her silver hair elegant, her black dress classic and expensive. She stood with a group of older women, clearly holding court, but her eyes were on Dominic and on Maya. "That's her," Maya whispered. "Yes. Come on. Might as well get it over with." They crossed the room, and Maya felt like she was walking toward a test she hadn't studied for. Maria Salvatore had raised children in the mob, had been married to one of the most dangerous men in the city, had survived decades in a world that ate the weak. A woman like that would see through any lie. "Mama." Dominic leaned down to kiss his mother's cheek, his affection obvious. "You look beautiful." "You look tired," Maria countered, but her eyes softened. Then they moved to Maya, sharp and assessing. "And you must be the mystery woman my son has been hiding." "Maya-chan, Mrs. Salvatore. It's a pleasure to meet you." Maya offered her hand, trying not to think about the fact that she was shaking hands with a mob boss's mother while pretending to date her son. "Maria, please." "Mrs. Salvatore makes me sound like an old woman." Maria's grip was firm, her gaze unwavering. My son tells me you're a graphic designer. Yes, ma'am. Mostly freelance work. Some corporate clients. And you're from Seattle originally? They talked for 10 minutes that felt like an hour. Maria asked about Maya's family, her education, her interests, each question seemingly casual but clearly designed to assess character. Maya answered honestly where she could, stuck to the script where she couldn't, and tried to project confidence she didn't quite feel. You're not what I expected, Maria said finally. What did you expect? Someone harder. Someone who'd chosen this life. Maria glanced at Dominic, who'd been watching the exchange with carefully hidden tension. But you seem like a nice girl who somehow ended up with my son. I can't decide if that makes you very brave or very foolish. Maybe both, Maya admitted. Maria laughed, a real laugh that made her whole face light up. I like her, Dominic. Don't screw this up. I'll try not to, he said dryly. After Maria released them, Dominic led Maya to one of the quieter alcoves, where they could catch their breath away from the crowd. You did well. My mother doesn't approve of most people. She seems like she sees everything. She does, which means she saw that you're nervous, that this is new, that you're trying. She values effort. He studied her face. You okay? You're looking overwhelmed. Maya realized she was. The crowd, the noise, the constant performance. It was exhausting. Just a lot to take in. We can leave soon. We've been seen. You've met my mother. That's enough for one night. His hand came up to her face, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, and the gesture was so casual, so intimate, that Maya's breath caught. Dominic. There you are. They turned to find a man approaching. Early 30s, expensive suit, expensive haircut, expensive smile. But there was something sharp in his eyes, something calculating. Vincent. Dominic's tone cooled several degrees. What do you want? Just to meet your lovely girlfriend, Vincent Marchetti. He offered his hand to Maya, who shook it briefly. I'm an old friend of Dominic's. Friend is generous, Dominic said. Vincent works for my competitors. I prefer to think of it as a healthy business rivalry. Vincent's smile never wavered. So, Maya, how are you enjoying the world of high society? Must be quite different from designing logos. There was an edge to the comment, a subtle dismissal that made Maya's spine straighten. Different, yes, but people are people regardless of tax bracket. Everyone wants to feel important. Vincent's smile tightened. Philosophical. I like it. He turned to Dominic. She's different from your usual type. Yes, Dominic agreed, and there was something dangerous in his tone. She is. The two men stared at each other, and Maya suddenly understood that this was about more than small talk. This was a message being delivered, a line being drawn. By bringing Maya here, by introducing her as his girlfriend, Dominic had made a statement in his world, and Vincent was testing it. Well, I'll let you two get back to your evening. Vincent nodded at Maya. Lovely to meet you. I'm sure we'll see each other again. When he was gone, Maya exhaled slowly. What was that about? Power. Control. Vincent wants to show he can approach me, talk to my girlfriend, imply threats without ever making them explicit. Dominic's jaw was tight. He's testing boundaries. What kind of threats? He looked at her, and for the first time that evening, she saw real concern in his eyes. The kind that make this arrangement more complicated than I initially suggested. The kind that mean you being with me might put you in danger from more than just Marcus Reed. Maya should have been scared, should have realized the depth of what she'd gotten into and backed out. But instead, she found herself angry. Angry at Vincent for his smug superiority. Angry at Marcus for driving her to this. Angry at a world where women needed men's protection just to feel safe. Then we deal with it, she said firmly. Together. That's the arrangement, isn't it? Something shifted in Dominic's expression. Something like respect mixed with surprise. Yes, that's the arrangement. He took her hand, lacing their fingers together, and led her back into the main hall. They danced. She hadn't expected that. But he was surprisingly good, leading her through a waltz with easy confidence. They ate dinner at a table with other couples, and Maya found herself laughing at a story one of the wives told, feeling almost normal. As the night wound down and they headed for the car, Dominic kept his arm around her waist, and Maya found herself leaning into him, tired but exhilarated. They'd done it. They'd convinced a room full of people that they were together. In the car, Maya kicked off her heels and groaned. How do women wear these things all night? Practice, determination, masochism. Dominic had loosened his bow tie, making him look slightly less formal and somehow more dangerous. You were perfect tonight. Natural, like you've been doing this for years. I was terrified the entire time. I know, but you didn't show it. That's a valuable skill in my world, being able to project confidence when you're scared. Maya thought about that, about how he must do the same thing every day. Are you ever really scared, or just pretending not to be? He was quiet for a long moment. Both. Fear is useful. It keeps you alert, keeps you from making stupid mistakes. But you can't let it control you. You have to be bigger than your fear. Is that how you live? It's how I survive. They rode in silence for a while, the city lights streaking past the windows. Maya felt the exhaustion of the evening catching up with her, her adrenaline crashing. Thank you, she said quietly, for tonight, for this. I know it's business for you, but it means everything to me. Dominic turned to look at her, his expression unreadable in the dim light. It's not just business anymore. Before Maya could figure out what that meant, they were pulling up to her building. Dominic walked her to the elevator, waited while she found her keys, stood at her door like he was reluctant to leave. Same time tomorrow? Maya asked, Is there another event? No, but we should be seen together casually. Lunch, maybe shopping. Make it look natural. Okay. She hesitated, then stood on tiptoe and kissed his cheek, the kind of thing a girlfriend would do. Good night, Dominic. His hand came up to where her lips had touched, and for a second, she saw something raw in his expression. Then it was gone, buried under his usual control. Good night, Maya. Lock your door. She did, leaning against it after he left, her heart pounding. It's fake, she reminded herself. It's just an arrangement. Don't forget that. But the warmth of his skin under her lips suggested it might be getting harder to remember what was real and what was pretend. Over the next 2 weeks, Maya's life transformed in ways she couldn't have imagined. She saw Dr. Martinez twice a week, slowly unpacking the damage Marcus had done. Learning to recognize the patterns of abuse she'd normalized. She attended 3 more events with Dominic. A restaurant opening, a private art show, a boxing match that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. And slowly, impossibly, they became friends. Dominic showed up at her apartment with takeout and stayed to watch old movies. They had breakfast meetings that turned into lunch meetings that stretched into dinner. He taught her poker, and she taught him to sketch. She met his sister, Rosa, who looked at them with knowing eyes and said, I like her. Don't mess it up. Everyone in his world seemed to believe they were real. Even people who should have known better, who dealt in lies and manipulation professionally, bought the story. Maybe because Dominic sold it so completely, introducing her to his inner circle, including her in conversations, touching her like it was second nature. Or maybe because it was starting to feel real. Maya caught herself thinking about him at odd moments, wondering what he was doing, if he was safe, if he thought about her the way she thought about him. She found excuses to text him, smiled when her phone buzzed with his responses. She started dressing for him, choosing colors he'd mentioned liking, wearing her hair down, because he'd once said it was beautiful that way. And the touching, God, the touching. Every public appearance meant his hand at her back, his arm around her waist, his fingers laced with hers. Innocent touches that set her skin on fire, that made her hyper-aware of everywhere they connected. Sometimes she caught him looking at her with an expression she couldn't read, his dark eyes intense, his jaw tight. 3 weeks in, they attended a gallery opening in Soho. The artist was someone Dominic knew, someone whose work involved massive abstract pieces that Maya found fascinating. They were standing in front of a canvas that was all red and gold slashes when Dominic's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his entire body went rigid. "What's wrong?" Maya asked quietly. "Reeds at your old apartment building. Try and get information from your former neighbors about where you went." Maya's blood went cold. She'd almost forgotten about Marcus, caught up in her new life. But of course he hadn't given up. Men like Marcus never gave up. "What do we do?" "We..." Dominic's eyes met hers, and she saw the steel underneath the civilized veneer. "We do nothing. I handle it." "Dominic, this is what you hired me for, Maya. Protection. Let me protect you." That night, Marcus Reed came home to find every window in his expensive car smashed. The next day, his firm received an anonymous complaint about ethics violations that triggered an internal investigation. The day after that, he was mugged in broad daylight, nothing taken, just roughed up enough to need stitches and develop a healthy sense of fear. Maya knew Dominic was behind it. She should have been horrified, should have objected to the violence, the intimidation, the casual abuse of power. Instead, she felt safer than she'd felt in years. "Thank you," she told him over dinner that night at her apartment. She cooked something simple, pasta and wine, wanted to give him something that wasn't part of their arrangement. For what? He knew, but he wanted her to say it, for making him afraid, for showing him what it feels like to be helpless. Dominic set down his fork, reached across the table to take her hand. "He won't bother you again. I made sure he understands that hurting you means dying slowly. And Marcus Reed, for all his faults, has a well-developed survival instinct." Maya squeezed his fingers, and the gesture felt different than their public displays. More real, more dangerous. "This arrangement," she said carefully, "it was supposed to be simple. Protection for appearances. But it doesn't feel simple anymore." "No," Dominic agreed quietly. "It doesn't." They stared at each other across the table, the air between them charged with everything they weren't saying. Maya knew this was a moment to pull back, to reestablish boundaries, to remember that this was fake and had to stay fake. Instead, she heard herself ask, "What are we doing, Dominic?" "I don't know." His thumb brushed across her knuckles, the touch electric. "But I think we're both in trouble." Because somewhere between the fake dates and the real conversations, between the practiced touches and the genuine laughter, something had shifted. The lines had blurred. The pretend had started feeling real. And neither of them seemed to want to stop it. The truth crashed over them like a wave, undeniable and terrifying. They were falling for each other, had maybe already fallen, and there was no going back from that. Dominic stood, came around the table, pulled Maya to her feet. "Tell me to leave." "I can't." "Tell me this is just business." "It isn't." "Not anymore." He cupped her face in his hands, his touch gentle despite the violence she knew he was capable of. "Maya, I'm dangerous. My life is dangerous. You should run from me, not toward me. I know what you are." She met his eyes steadily. "And I'm still here." He kissed her then, and it was nothing like the polite cheek kisses they'd exchanged for cameras. This was real and raw and desperate. Months of tension finally breaking free. Maya kissed him back with everything she had, her hands fisting his shirt, pulling him closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dominic rested his forehead against hers. "We can't go back from this." "I don't want to go back." "Your contract. We'll write a new one. Or tear it up." "I don't care about the contract, Dominic. I care about you." He pulled back to look at her, searching her face for doubt or fear. He must have found neither because he smiled, a real smile, vulnerable and hopeful in a way she'd never seen from him. "I care about you, too. More than I should. More than is safe. Then we'll be unsafe together." They stood in her kitchen, holding each other, and Maya knew that everything had just changed. This wasn't fake anymore, wasn't business or arrangement or protection scheme. This was real, messy and complicated and probably doomed, but real. And for the first time since before Marcus, Maya felt like she could breathe fully, like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. "Stay," she whispered. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." So he stayed. They talked until dawn, about everything and nothing. about fears and hopes, and all the ways their lives were about to get more complicated. They fell asleep on her couch, tangled together, the city lights their only witness. When Maya woke to find Dominic still there, his arm around her, his face peaceful in sleep, she realized something profound. She'd gone looking for protection and found something infinitely more valuable. She'd found someone who saw her, not as a victim to be saved or a problem to be managed, but as an equal. Someone strong enough to fight her battles, but smart enough to let her fight her own. Someone dangerous to the world, but safe for her. Dominic's eyes open, dark and warm, and full of promise. Morning. Morning. Maya smiled, feeling lighter than she had in years. Still here, huh? Still here, having second thoughts, not even first ones. He kissed her again, soft and sweet this time, full of new beginnings. Outside, the city was waking up, millions of people starting their Saturday, completely unaware that Maya Chen's fake relationship had just become the most real thing in her life. So, Dominic said eventually, pulling back with a grin that made him look younger, less burdened, "What do we do now?" Maya thought about it. About the future stretching ahead of them, complicated and uncertain and probably dangerous. About the fact that she was dating a mafia boss for real now, that her life would never be simple or safe or normal. About the fact that she didn't care, because normal had never kept her safe anyway. "Now," she said, matching his grin with one of her own, "we see what happens when the pretending stops and the real begins. That sounds like an adventure. Are you scared?" "Terrified," he admitted, "but I've learned that fear is useful. It keeps you alert, keeps you from making stupid mistakes." "Is this a stupid mistake?" "Probably." He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, the tip of her nose. "But I'm going to make it anyway." And so they did. Together, they navigated the complicated waters of a real relationship built on a fake foundation. They dealt with his world's scrutiny, her family's concern, the constant challenges of loving someone who lived with danger. But they also found joy in quiet mornings and laughter-filled evenings, in the way he made her feel cherished and she made him feel human, in the gradual healing of old wounds and the building of new dreams. Marcus Reed never bothered Maya again. Word had spread through certain circles that she belonged to Dominic Salvatore, and that was better than any restraining order. She was safe in ways the law had never made her, protected by a system that operated outside legal boundaries. Some people might have judged her for that, but Maya had learned that sometimes protection came from unexpected places, that sometimes the person who seemed most dangerous was actually the safest person to be with, and that sometimes pretending to fall in love was just the universe's way of pushing you toward the real thing. 6 months after that night at Valentino's, when a desperate woman had slid into a mafia boss's booth and changed both their lives, Maya stood in the same VIP section. But this time, she walked on Dominic's arm openly, confidently, knowing she belonged there. Belonging not because of fear or arrangement, but because she'd chosen it, because she'd chosen him and he'd chosen her. And together they built something real from a foundation of pretend. "Happy?" Dominic asked, pulling her close as music pounded around them. Maya looked up at the man who'd started as her shield and become her home. "Incredibly. No regrets. Only that I didn't pretend to be your girlfriend sooner." He laughed, the sound rich and warm and free. Then he kissed her in the middle of the club, in front of everyone, not for show or appearances, but simply because he wanted to. And Maya kissed him back, thinking about how far she'd come from the terrified woman backing away from her abusive ex, about how sometimes the biggest risks led to the greatest rewards.